So this game I'm talking about now has made a lot of Guinness World Records of most games sold in one day, most money made by a video game. I get the feeling that everyone I make this video for probably has played Grand Theft Auto 5. This is the newest sandbox title from Rockstar, and I will say that I love the Grand Theft Auto games since Grand Theft Auto 3. I didn't care about the first two games. I don't like the whole top-down perspective thing going on. But 3 was great. Vice City is still my favorite just because of the soundtrack, the setting, the characters like Tommy Vercetti and whatnot. Vice City was such a magical experience. Magical cocaine drug dealing experience. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas improved on Vice City, and then we had Grand Theft Auto 4 for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and that was actually my one Grand Theft Auto game I really didn't like. I thought the cars handled like crap. And you ever had that feeling where driving a car in real life is way more satisfying than driving a car in this video game? That shouldn't happen. Video games should be super fun with cars, and real life should be way more careful because you don't want to die. But no, I'd rather drive a real car than drive any of the cars in Grand Theft Auto 4 because they were way too slippery, they were way too clunky. The missions they had you doing in Part 4, nothing was great. It was very brown and gray, the Liberty City location. I just thought it was a pretty forgettable title. I had more fun with the original Saints Row. Not Saints Row 2 or 3, the original Saints Row. So Grand Theft Auto 4 did nothing for me. That's why I wasn't really hyped for Grand Theft Auto 5. I thought, it's probably going to be more of the same with Grand Theft Auto 4, so it's probably going to be I will say no. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a really fun game. They took it back to the fun level that the PlayStation 2 games were. The cars in Grand Theft Auto 5 handle great. The character you're playing... Well, you're actually playing 3 characters in Grand Theft Auto 5, and you could switch between them on the fly as well. And for the most part, I liked all 3 characters, and I can't say that about San Andreas or Grand Theft Auto 4. I always thought it was kind of stupid to have a game where I'm playing a guy who runs over people, who steals cars, who can beat an old lady with a baseball bat. Don't try to make me sympathetic. Don't try to make me a tortured soul, Like, Nico Bellic, come on, I just beat up a grandma like 2 hours ago. Don't get into your mopey bullshit. Now we have characters like Trevor. Trevor in Grand Theft Auto 5, one of the main trio, is a psychotic motherfucker. And he's probably my second favorite Grand Theft Auto character next to Tommy Vercetti. Because when I think of a Grand Theft Auto character, when I think of an open sandbox game where you're stealing cars and shit, I think of psychopath, I think of awful human being, and he's an awful human being. Although I do like Michael DeSanta and Franklin as well, because there's just a lot more of a fun vibe with this game. You can once again steal jets and jump out of them and parachute down to Los Santos below. There's a lot of fun little stuff going on with the countryside and crap where you can get on a BMX bike and hit jumps on a giant mountain. There are actually animals in this game. You can literally run over a deer. You can run into a bobcat. You can get killed by a bobcat. So they have a wildlife to the countryside area of San Andreas. Everything about this game, it just feels good. The soundtrack on the radio is pretty good. The story, although it's not like the best story in the world, it's very entertaining and the dialogue is pretty memorable. And there's a lot of memorable moments in this game, whether it's the torture scene that apparently has a lot of people going, ugh, whether it's the death of a character from Grand Theft Auto 4 that makes everyone go talking. The dialogue, the acting, everything about this is so memorable. Cars handle great. The gunplay, I was surprised, was like my favorite part of the game. I briefly remember Grand Theft Auto 4 having a kind of gunplay system, but Grand Theft Auto 5 has a great one. They have a great auto-aim assist thing going on, where as long as you're aiming where an enemy is, when you pop up from your cover, your character will generally be locked onto him, and he can stay with him even when he's moving to the left or right or something. So I never felt like I was missing enemies constantly. I always felt like when they're sending a wave of like 20 guys after me, and that happens, when they send a wave of 20 guys after me, I can handle it because my auto aim and me knowing when to duck because my health is getting low or because, you know, they're shooting at me. I feel like a badass in gunfights, and I feel like I can take on anything. I loved the heist levels, where after planning the heist for a few missions, now you're going in wearing ski masks, taking diamonds, planning a getaway route, and just, you know, and when the cops start bringing the heat, you can bring the heat right back. The heists were indeed the best part about this game. Grand Theft Auto 5, again, I think I'm preaching to nobody because it's sold like crazy. I think everyone watching this probably owns Grand Theft Auto 5. But I just want to say that if you haven't played Grand Theft Auto 5, oh yeah, this is a good Grand Theft Auto game. If this had the same setting and location as Vice City, you know, if it took place in the 80s, if it took place in Vice City and you were playing as Tommy Vercetti, this would be my favorite Grand Theft Auto. In terms of character and story and soundtrack, I think Vice City is still my favorite, even though it has a lot of technical flaws, especially by today's standards. But this game's great. I mean, I love all the mini games in this thing are not awful to play. You know, you can go and play tennis. You can play golf. You can actually go to flight school. And this, I swear, this flight school thing felt like a sequel to Pilot Wings. I love Pilot Wings on the Super Nintendo, and Pilot Wings 64 was pretty alright. And I haven't played the one on 3DS, but to me, you know, flying through those rings, landing on the runways and getting your landing gear out, and when you have to actually skydive and fall in between these little rings while you're parachuting, this felt like a sequel to Pilot Wings. And I was like, hey Rockstar, why don't you just contact Nintendo and ask if you can make Pilot Wings like 4, you know? Because there's a lot of fun side stuff in this game. I love it. You know, you can drive an ATV, you can drive a motorcycle, you can pilot a submarine and look for toxic waste in the water. And they bothered to actually design all this underwater, like, attention to detail, like coral reefs and giant chasms and stuff. And it's just like, holy shit. Like, this is a living, breathing world. You know, there's so much attention to detail in this game, it's pretty damn great. I was hooked onto this thing. I was hooked onto this in a way I certainly wasn't Grand Theft Auto 4. Number 4, I was really tired of by the end of it, and I was just like, ugh, can this game end already? But Grand Theft Auto 5, I really, really, really enjoyed. And again, if the setting was different, it would be my favorite. I'm just a nostalgia sucker for Vice City. I love Vice City to death. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. The game also has online, but I will be honest, I haven't been able to get into a single goddamn game at all. You can customize your own character, make him male or female, and there's a lot of death matches, races, fun sandboxy things you can do with over 16 people. You can literally join a gang and create your emblem and have a lot of fun online, and I've seen tons of fun videos of people doing it. Far From Subtle has a pretty great Grand Theft Auto Online series of videos they just uploaded, but I haven't personally been able to get into a game. I guess my online internet connection sucks ass. I don't know what to tell you, but every time I've tried to, I just cannot get into it. Which is a shame, because my custom character looks pretty damn good in a suit, I must say. Looks like me! So this game has online multiplayer, and definitely download the patches at first. I think there's a lot of technical fuck-ups with this one when it was first released, but the patches should solve all that, because I didn't really have any glaring problems. So yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5, really good, really fun, really action-packed. I think a lot of the missions do drag a little bit, but it's still pretty satisfying. Get it! It's a good game.